Well, good morning, everyone from New York. Welcome to Lady Galway's Ladies Hour, and we are live today from the Flute Center of New York. This is a real special event. I have three beautiful women with us today, and normally we're just on Zoom and you see all our little heads, but today we thought that we'd celebrate and do something very special because the Galways actually got over to New York City. And our first stop was, as is everybody else's, every other flutist, is the Flute Center of New York. And so here we are. Welcome, ladies. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for getting up so early. These ladies are great. It is 8 o'clock in the morning, and when I mentioned, would you like to do a ladies' hour, they said, well, it will have to be before work hours, so here you are. I'd like to introduce you to the ladies behind the scenes here at this wonderful Flute Center, New York, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. First, we're going to talk about the ladies. Emily Andenmatten, Lauren Wuerth, and Agata Matusiak. Matusiak? Did I say that correctly? Okay. Well, these three ladies, you're going to get to know them throughout this hour. And they're pretty amazing. I've been reading their bios, and I'm really impressed. And I don't know how you do it. They're all professional flutists. They've all studied and gotten various degrees, which they're going to tell you about, in many different countries, which is what we always love. We love to bring in the international aspect to also give all of you students the vision, the possibilities of the things that you can do. And here they are working nonstop. I think we were talking that your hours are from 10 to 6, but they're really from...
Any hours needed.
Any hours needed. And as we know, ladies are incredible multitaskers. Emily, you are a mother, and your little one is...
Henry is just about 20 months old, so almost 2.
And you had to drop him at daycare before we met today.
Yeah. Before work is daycare drop-off, and just juggling it all.
And is Henry used to you practicing in the morning before you get to work? If you have 5 minutes?
Yeah, if I have 5 minutes, that could happen. I'll admit that it normally doesn't, but he does like the flute. He was really afraid of it the very first time I played. Yeah, he cried.
Must have been very little.
Yeah, he was really small, and now he thinks it's great, especially if I play Baby Shark or Baba Black Sheep, one of the
Itsy Bitsy
preschool
Spider
hits.
is a big one in our family. Yes,
that would be good.
Uncle Jimmy does that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the best repertoire.
Yes, right. Sure. Well, there you go. There's your next CD out there.
Yeah, that's a thought.
Dedicated to Henry.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, so fun.
Wonderful. And we're going to talk a little bit about how these ladies maintain also their flute playing within working this very, I won't say high pressure job, but you definitely have to be on all day. And we're going to bring to that in just a moment. Lauren, you are from New York City.
I am.
And were you born in New York City?
I grew up in Long Island.
Oh, so did
So-
I.
Oh,
Where are
really?
you from?
Oceanside in Nassau County.
Oh, I know Oceanside
Aw,
very well. Yeah,
nice.
I was born in Levittown.
Okay.
We moved to Huntington.
Wow.
Wonderful. And then you studied at Ithaca? Or
No, I did
wait,
my
you studied at the
undergrad.
you
That was
studied
me.
at
Yeah.
yeah, undergrad. Yeah.
I did my undergrad with Judith Mendenhall at Queens College.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful flutist.
Yeah.
Yes, at Queens College, right?
Yes. And then I moved to Denmark.
Then
for
you
5
went
years.
to Denmark for 5 years. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
just speaking of that. And you
Yeah.
studied with one of the Galway Flute Academy's resident flutists,
Yes.
Ula Minamon.
Yes, she was fantastic.
She is a wonderful, wonderful studio.
Yeah.
And it'll be very interesting as we go on throughout this hour. We'll talk about how an American flutist goes over to Europe, learns the language, because your classes would have been in Danish.
They were mostly in English, but there was a lot of hybrid, and I had some jobs that were in Danish, so there was a lot of...
Yeah, because you were performing also.
Yeah.
And you're more into contemporary music.
Yes.
So, and you also worked a diversity of jobs over there with as a librarian also, or organizing?
So it was in the library, but it was actually as the assistant music director for a bit of time. So they had a concert hall and everything, so...
That's pretty...
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And this was during your 5 years?
Yes.
Yeah. And your master's was a 2-year program.
Yes.
Right, we're going to hear more about
Yeah.
that later. Great. And Agata, you are from Poland.
That's true.
And we have a wonderful relationship, the Galway Flute Academy, with Poland. I mentioned to you a bit earlier, many of our students, actually one of our rising stars, Mariana Solnox, just Just got a nice job there, and yeah, and so we recorded there. I remember we recorded with Sinfonia Varsovia, and it was was it 36 degrees? It was colder than Russia, and we were in the concert hall. I'm going to my husband. Why are we not recording in Bermuda? We're doing it, but of course because of the music and everything. So this must have been very interesting for you. But you're a native English speaker, or you're native Polish?
Native Polish. I moved here about 6-7 years ago. I did both of my degrees in Poland,
Yes.
in Wrocław, where I studied with Elżbieta Waleńska and Professor Jerzy Mrozik. And after that, after I graduated, I moved here within a month, I believe, just because of other reasons. And yeah, I started working at the Flute Center shortly about a year after. And it's been a journey.
And the reason why I said an English speaker is because your English is so fluent. You actually got a little New York accent. Maybe it's from chatting with all the ladies all the time. And so, did you learn English in Poland?
Oh yeah, absolutely. English right now for everyone is a must-have. So I started at school at the age of 7, but also along that, I also took private classes, private lessons, just to make sure that I keep up with the with the international level.
Wonderful. So you had this little vision even when you were young, or your parents also. Yeah, wonderful. And so each one of you with your diversities, with what you do, and what we'd like to talk about also to the students is the journeys. Like, how do you, as a Polish student, and you want to come to America, there's a lot of hoops you have to go through. It's not so simple. And also for you, going to Denmark might have been a bit easier, maybe, but a lot of applications and things like that. And we also have a doctor sitting here too. Also, yes, you've gone on to study you've got 3 degrees there. You've got your bachelor's at Ithaca. I've got that now.
Yeah.
Then our friend Amy Porter over at
in
University of Michigan.
Yeah.
Wonderful flute studio she has there, very active. And also Carol Winston.
Yeah, over at Stony Brook.
Wonderful
Yeah.
program also.
Yeah, I've been really lucky.
That's a lot of studying.
It is, and I did take a lot of time between Michigan and Stony Brook. After I finished in Michigan, I moved here to New York because my boyfriend, who's now my husband, lived here. So I had no other good reason. But I ended up working at the Flute Center about a year and a half after that. And it stuck and it was great, but a few years later kind of thought to myself, if not now, when? And probably never. So I went back to school while working. So I was kind of commuting to Stony Brook and doing marketing and kind of juggling. The juggling began then, probably. But it was great, and it was such a gift to study with Carol. She's in New York all the time, so I actually didn't have to go to Long Island all that much, though it's a great place.
It's a long drive, though.
It is. And I was so lucky that the Flute Center kind of granted me some flexibility, of course, was needed. But it was a great experience. I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot. And that was my foray back into academia. And I think I'm happy to be where I am now. But it's one of those things I always wanted to do. So I'm glad I got to.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
I had no idea you had 3 degrees.
Yeah.
You know, reading their bios today was pretty amazing. Because I'm always taken, especially during these interviews, with the strength of the ladies all the time, and I think that as a team, really, that we support each other, and I was sitting in a restaurant yesterday with my husband, and these 2 girls were just going at it like nonstop, and that's what we do as women. We just talk lots of times, but what we do is give each other energy too, and. When you think of what each one of you have accomplished at your young ages, and you're all very young, you are. And here you are. Let's talk about, that's a little bit that. I still want to get into the process of we've spoken a little bit about yours with going back, but also with being either a foreign musician coming to America or in America the other way, because this is so interesting. Because the idea here with Our Ladies Hour is to really get you to think out of the box. The idea at the Flute Academy is to get you think out of the box. The idea at the Flute Center is to get you to think out of the box. They have a lot of boxes behind them, but when you do come here, there's all those flutes to try. Now, each one of these women also maintain professional careers, so they've got this incredible journey. They're dealing with just getting to work on time and being in shape. So here you are. You're all resident flutists, pretty much. Now, you are in charge. I'm not going to read today, so you're going to tell us each 1, 2, 3 what your positions here are. Emily.
Sure. So I'm a resident flutist, and I'm the director of marketing.
Hi, I'm the resident flutist and I'm the director of services here.
I'm the resident flutist and the director of business operations.
That's all, huh? That's all.
Yeah.
So basically, they're running the whole thing. Sorry, Phil. As you know, we'd like to give a shout out to Phil Unger and to Julie and Rose. Thank you very much. And also to Pedro. Right? Yes, Pedro Ferreira, who is our cameraman this morning, who got up early and got us all coffee and water when we got there. So, and just being a resident flutist, you have to keep your flute playing up.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
Well, it's definitely not easy having a full-time job and trying to also have life outside of work and
Yeah.
practicing sessions. So I'm not a morning person, so I always prefer to practice at night. So either staying late at the Flute Center or just going home, relaxing for let's say an hour or so, and then having 1 hour or hour and a half of practice session. Of course, the more concerts are upcoming, the more practicing time there is. But aside from that, actually, Lauren and Emily didn't mention, but some of us also still maintain a flute studio outside of working hours.
Yes.
So I still do have private students after hours. So that's also, it also helps me to always be actively engaged in making music and teaching music and solving problems and finding each individual solution for each student. Because what's different from having a flute studio here in the United States in New York City is that our students are not only students that go to elementary school or middle school. We actually have working professionals who come here and they want to learn flute in all ages.
Yes. Well, that sounds like a busy day, doesn't it? but it's this time management, which we're hearing here, and this is, I think, so important because what we're going to talk about in a second. Let's finish here, Lauren. So, how do you balance with what you do now? Now, Lauren also is very much into contemporary music and contemporary ensemble. So, do you play all these sliding glissando instruments?
I do, yeah.
Can you do our friend Ava Kingma with her?
Oh, yes.
You can play that too.
I have
Listen
before,
to me, I
yeah.
sound like an amateur. No, only because we don't have one at home.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned thinking outside the box.
Yes.
That's certainly something you have to do with contemporary music. And I always looked at it as a really fun and interesting challenge. And it's kind of kept me on my toes with a lot of things. And I think since starting here, I really had to shift my focus of, when I was playing more full-time and practicing all the time, and playing all the time, it was something that was a little bit more stressful in a way because I was doing it every second of the day. And now I'm here for 8-9 hours a day. So when I do get to practice and when I do get to spend time with students and perform, I find more joy in it actually because I have limited time with it now.
Yes.
So my practicing has shifted and I enjoy my scales and warm-ups and all those things much more because it's my time now.
And I think this is what is so special is that we always try, and I'm sure you all do too, is to impart upon your students, to find this joy within the practicing, the excitement, the energy, the passion, rekindling your passion, and time management helps you do that. Emily.
Yeah.
We've heard about your mornings.
They're busy these days. So like Agata touched on, it kind of depends what's coming up, to be honest. So if I have something on the horizon, I usually get pretty stressed out about it and practice a lot, which means mornings I do tend to get into the office before we actually open. Sometimes I'm just working, but if I have something coming up, I'll play. Also in the evening, so Agata mentioned, you go home and you relax. I would go home and do dinner with a toddler and bath time and bedtime. And then luckily, we're in a small apartment, but somehow the sleep toddler sleep has gotten pretty good. I'll keep my fingers crossed, but we're in a good stretch. So I've even like practiced piccolo in the evenings, which feels like a crazy thing to do after you like put your little one to sleep, to say, okay, and now a little Bernstein for all of us. But I've been just like lucky that my husband is so supportive and like a very, very active father and a true partner. It would certainly not be possible without a real like actual partner in parenting. But yeah, when something's coming up, then the priorities shift. And then if I'm in a moment where I don't have anything on the calendar, it's really like maintaining and finding time for myself. Like Lauren said, it is kind of an active self-care to like really commit to this like sometimes meditative act of long tones and warm-ups and focusing on your own work and your own progress. So much of what we do here at the store is like teams and for our clients and for the community and for so many others, but I think our practice is like one of the places that really is for us. Yeah. So that's been important. It's probably something I should spend a little more time doing.
Well, no, it sounds like all three of you ladies are in a wonderful place, which is why when I knew we were coming to New York, I asked Emily, and it's always like this. To my assistant, if I don't have time on the computer, can you write to Emily and ask her? She's got 10 minutes to talk to me. And it was just this idea because now, so here you all are, and so we've got some flutists out there maybe who are in conservatory. And they're thinking, yeah, but I'm not in that place. How do I find that place? And so it's the journey, And so let's go back to conservatory time. Okay, early conservatory time, not the time when we're in Denmark and life is nice, we're going sightseeing and you have a beautiful concert hall there. We used to spend a lot of time there. But the time when, or say the high school time, going for the auditions and, one of my talks we did last time was stress, that word, let's talk about it, because it is really important. And we all know it, even in our fingers. When we're playing, if you ever notice when you play high notes versus low notes, your fingers are tenser. Or when you're playing forte versus piano, or like you said, practicing with some nice long melodies and long tones. We're not allowed to use that in my family, you see, so,
okay.
Yes, it's okay.
I take it back.
No. But no, it's true, because you're finding your center, really, is what it is. But, here we are, young women, and we're trying to come to New York City. And if you were like me, I was hit with it. Like I wasn't ready for New York City. I came here when I was 17. Wow. Well, almost 18. I went to the Manus College because my teacher said to me, I had the choice of the schools, and because believe it or not, I was very shy. And she said to me, go to a small school. You'll play in the orchestra the first year. And Manus at the time was a very nurturing school, and our teacher was Carl Craver, who was a student of Marcel Moises. So we got to go up to the Moise classes, which was great. But my real education was, I was an usher at Lincoln Center, so I put myself financially through the 4 years of school. It was my goal. We all have goals. And Julius Baker was the flutist, and my education was listening to music and being in it. But I wasn't ready for New York City because New York, right? And people come here with their goals and their ways, and if you're in the way. And so I think that anyone who's in New York or a major town or anywhere really, you work from a very young age at this point to find your center, even conservatory. Because as we always talk too about auditioning, let's talk about auditioning. You go in a room with how many flutists? And you have to find your center. So do you remember any experiences, particularly maybe it was a teacher or a mentor or maybe an older flutist or anyone or a conductor that helped you through this period? Can you pinpoint a point when you were upset or nervous about a recital or about an audition and somebody came along and gave you some words of advice? Do you remember anything like that at all?
I have something. I remember there was an audition during my undergrad that...
Okay, so you would be how old? Because we don't have the
same
system in Europe.
I think I was like 19 or 20, and it didn't go how I wanted it to go. And I called my parents, like, I want to go home. I'm so upset. And I was so upset, and it affected the whole year. It was like a big placement exam or audition, and my dad told me that he always roots for the underdog. And I just think, like, you know, we don't always want to view ourselves as an underdog. We don't want to view ourselves as a victim, but to also think that there are people who are rooting for you, no matter, you know, whether you have a good audition or a bad audition, and also to carry that into, like, now that I'm a little bit older, to kind of be somebody that's rooting for the underdog, to be somebody that's advocating for the student who maybe doesn't always get to play in the master classes. Maybe the resume is like a little bit thinner for one student, and yet, of course, they would be competent. And I think that's been something that's really impactful and just made me feel so much better at the time, and also has kind of helped guide how I want some of what we do here to go. Like, we want to root for the underdog as a store. I think it's actually something that's like kind of deeply part of who we are.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is actually, because you have all these types of instruments behind, and we will talk about that because we do want to talk about the Flute Center New York, because we have a huge appreciation for where I'm sitting right now. I have to tell you, in the way that you've grown in your outreach to flutists, because well, I used to hang out at Sam Ash on Long Island with Cy and watch take flutes apart, but that was my thing. No, it's, and like you said too, it affected your whole year, because as musicians, you know, we're always searching for that perfection, right? That one note. It's like, how many times, like, you'll play a whole recital, but if you played like one little phrase, right, that one little phrase keeps going. I remember sitting in my room looking at the concerto after thinking, it was like, I mean, it was hardly even noticeable, but we can take ourselves to a pretty bad place. And, you know, experience is, I think, that, like you said, the only way, you know, to get through this. I don't think, and I have to say that, you know, these courses and everything else that people take in confidence, it's just experience. Is really how to find your center. Okay, so, like, Lauren, what do you, anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, I mean, not a phrase in particular, but I do want to give a special shout out to Judith Mendenhall, because I think she really shaped so much of who I am as a flutist. And in my undergrad, I was the type of flutist that was very nervous and very stressed out all the time, and practiced, you know, as much as I humanly could. And I never really believed in myself in a way that she did. So she really saw something in there, and that kind of allowed me to grow in a way. And, you know, I remember I won the concerto competition, I think, in my junior year. So I played the Nielsen
at Queens,
the
Aaron
Queens.
Copland School of Music.
So I played the Nielsen concerto, and I, you know, got off stage, and I pretend to be confident, and I get off, and I start crying, and I'm like, that was terrible, oh my goodness. But then she comes over, and, you know, my friends and family, they come over, and they're congratulating me, and, you know, I'm initially thinking, they're all just lying, you know, they're trying to make me feel better. But her just coming over and being like, Lauren, this was incredible, and just throughout those 4 years of just constantly boosting me and really allowing me to believe in myself, and that's, you know, lasted with me for many, many years. So
that's a beautiful story. Yeah, she's a very beautiful person. I remember when I was a student and a young performer. She shines away.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you bring that to your students.
Yeah,
now
I really
too.
try, and I take a lot of what she taught me and just kind of emulate, you know, being a person as well. I think that's really important with my students. I'm tough on them, and as I am with some of my colleagues here that I manage, but in a way that is very empathetic and kind and loving. And so I want them to flourish and love what they're doing, and that's always really important.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And so it's really the growth. I think that the growth, and so many times we don't allow ourselves to hear the positive, like you just said, and we've all experienced this, right, where we think it's terrible. It's like, oh, they're just saying this to make me feel good. And I think that one of the challenges when we can get over that barrier within ourselves, because yes, we're allowed, and to realize it was stressful, we are allowed to, all those emotions are flying, but just stop for a second and try to listen to what other people are saying, you know, instead of what those voices are saying all the time,
Yeah.
because as we said, we are perfectionists. How many times you probably have in here where people try flutes just because they're having a bad day on their flute, so they think if they get a new flute, they're going to, let's not go there. But we all know that. How many times do I read on the flute forum, my flute is not respond, I can't get my low notes, and so my husband in the background, tell him to practice more Moise. So it's that process of growth, and I think that as you all are showing us today, that you're in, it sounds very easy, I know, to all of you, some of you younger ones that are struggling, you say, well, that's fine for them, boy, but it's also a goal to be like that, because each one of these ladies here has gone through this process of really just keep fighting and going and finding, to listen to that positivity where you can then have a great partner and balance this and this and this, and do it and really find joy in it. And Agata, what about you? Tell us about, so in Poland with your schooling, it's very strong, I know that, musically. Because you have such tradition, Poland, that's why it's such wonderful musicians, yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference if it comes to schooling system in Poland is that we have separate public music schools, which is not a thing in the United States. So aside from having your morning school when you go to the elementary school or middle school or high school, after this section of your day is done, everyone else goes home. And then these people who decided to learn how to play the instrument, they actually, after the 2 p.m., they go to music school to start their classes, to practice. So it's been a challenging time for, I think, most of us who went to music school in Poland to grow up over there. Because sometimes the days were 12 hours long for us. We started school, so it's 8 in the morning to, let's say, 2 p.m., and then going to music school and having classes. We have ear training, we have history of music, we have music analysis, we have bands, we have orchestras, we have individual flute classes twice a week. We have additional piano classes once a week.
Okay, now wait, as you're saying this, what age were you?
So this is when you start, so when I went to music school, I was 6 years old. And I actually started on the piano.
But did you have all these classes?
Not for the the first 6 years, but starting the second degree school, which is 6 years, and that's when you are in middle school. So when you're 13 through 19,
you would have those long days.
I would have all these, yes, long days.
And you had your other subjects also, your language subjects. And
oh yeah.
And yet you look so relaxed and beautiful. No bags under the eyes, nothing.
Well, I guess, this whole schooling system really made us realize what is important for you. And you have to learn how to prioritize what you have to do, what's important to you. It did mean that you can succeed in everything. So they were, for example, subjects that you knew, okay, you're only going to be as good as you want to be in this area because you can't be 100% everywhere. And for me, as I said, I started as a piano student when I was 6 through the year, I was up till I was 12, 13. And then I was like, well, I don't really feel like I'm a pianist. I didn't really love practicing when I played piano, and I really wanted to play the flute. So for Polish education system, me starting playing the flute at the age of 13, that was very late. Everyone else was very advanced already. So for me, that was an additional challenge. But what was actually easy for me at first was that on the flute, there's only one line to play. There's no chords. And the second thing is that you're not asked to play everything from memory. So that was another thing that I found, oh my God, this is so much easier than I didn't have to memorize all of that. And I think what was the most exciting for me to play the flute was that you could play with other people. When I was playing piano for the first 6 years of my life, it was just, okay, you're going to the class and you're going home, you're all the time alone practicing. But when I started playing the flute, we started having ensembles, flute trios, quartets. I started playing in the orchestra. So I also had a wonderful flute teacher in my first school. My flute teacher's name is Anna Węglarska. And she was also a very nurturing person. She was always there for her students. Whenever we were, getting ready for competitions, she would always make sure that we get additional classes, additional rehearsals with the pianist, who was also amazing, and always there for us. She would also open a school on Sunday sometimes, just to make sure that we have additional time to to practice. So yeah, I guess that's where the time management came from.
It came from. Well, that's amazing. As you first started talking about that in the afternoon we go to our music school, what went through my mind was, oh, you must have been so excited the whole morning. Oh, now I was thinking, boy, I would have loved it if, in high school anyway, I used to go to the afternoon classes and go to the band, and if the teachers all knew this is what we wanted to do, it was okay. But I kept thinking, oh, were you excited each day? Well, probably when you took the flute, you were, because you'd be seeing more friends and everything, which is what's so wonderful today. Also, I think what's come more to the forefront than when I was studying here is, and we see it everywhere, maybe also because of the internet, all the flute ensembles and all the flute orchestras and the large flutes and small flutes, and we didn't have any of that, Well, also in New York at that time it was like this, But we did play duos and quartets and things like that. And actually, my first introduction to James Galway was that he was all-encompassing, and it was so fresh, because it was in Ireland, and all these flute players came together to play, and I thought, oh my God, they're all getting along. And it was a whole different. It was probably just the era that I grew up at here in New York, and it was probably led by some of the flute professors. We know the teachers have big influence on us, and this is also important. I think that maybe all of you could give a little advice to the students that if you have a negative teacher, it's time to change, right? Could you give some advice on that, ladies? Because I think this is really, when we talked about beating ourselves up, right? Beating ourselves up because that note was not perfect. So today my low notes are not good, or you get on the stage and it's not projecting as you would like, and so we can go into that horrible head thing. But if we're hearing the voices of those encouraging people, your father, and you're not the underdog anymore. Your dad must be so proud of you. Your teacher, and also you said you had I had a very encouraging teacher too. Her name was Catherine Curran. She was a student in Cades, this a long time ago, and she played in the Long Island Philharmonic. And my orchestra teacher actually took me aside and said, I want you to get away from this other one who was the school star. And also I had a very negative teacher there who liked the star, and I was not the star. And he was going to make sure I knew that. And she said, go study with Kathy. And this woman had a red sports car and a silver Powell flute. And I used to go. And I looked at the silver Powell flute, and I had a Gemeinhardt, beautiful Gemeinhardt, yes. But everyone else had those. They had B keys and open holes, and I had a silver-plated, but I had a sterling silver head joint, a C-foot, and I used to look at those flutes. But we couldn't afford it, that was life. But she had a silver Powell, and she encouraged me. She put me on the list to get a Haynes, and I just worked nonstop to get a silver Haynes just after graduation, But I worked nonstop to get the money for. I think it was $1,100 later, and I still have the Haynes. Oh, it's a great flute. Yeah, 4300 series. It's really, really great. Yeah. But when I married my husband, he took it to Cooper and he changed it. No, it's got a Cooper head, and he moved some of the keys. Very interesting. But it's a real Haynes. But anyway, talking about encouraging mentors, and this teacher, and I was very, very negative, and she wrote, and I still have the book. It says there's no such word as I can't. But she said, this is what you'll do. You'll go to music school in New York City. You'll get a job at Lincoln Center, and you'll support yourself for 4 years. You'll get into the schools, and then we'll tell your parents. Because I kept saying, my father won't let me go to work, live in New York City. And I kept thinking, why won't he let me go live in New York City? I'm 17. I'm grown up, with my mini skirts up to here. And so I understand today why he didn't want me to go live in New York City, which is why I went to the Mannes College, because it was on the Upper East Side, because at the time Manhattan, it wasn't Upper West Side was not like today, but it's that encouragement all the time. So, and we've all, I don't know about you, but I've lived with that horrible negativity, and one of my attractions to James Galway was, not romantically, but was this incredible positivity and this openness that he had. And I think you all bring that here. and this whole flute center, if you're ever in New York City and you're feeling down, come to the, listen to me, I'm an advert. Come to the flute center. No, because it is, like, we love coming here. I walked in this morning, I said to Pedro, oh, I'm back here. It's wonderful. My first stop in New York City after AT&T. Anyway, so back to your stories now that I've talked enough. If you can encourage the students in a way, because if you have someone negative, what would you say to them in a sentence? Move.
Well, one thing I always say, and this, I was lucky enough to always have teachers like this, is that like I never wanted to go to a lesson and be afraid because of my teacher being negative or, you know, just kind of down. Like I always came from and had the honor of having teachers that I wanted to do well because I respected them and I respected myself and my own journey. And so that's kind of how I am as a teacher and as a leader. Like I want you to grow and come prepared and you know, an overachiever in some way because of the respect that we mutually have together and never out of fear. And I think that there's definitely always a way to do that. So if you don't have the right teacher, you know, they're out there.
And how do we encourage, or maybe one of you can chime in here, to a kid who's, you know, how you know, you can't just go up to your teacher, and also we put them on a pedestal anyway, or they put themselves on a pedestal. No, but we do. I don't want to study with you anymore. I think that a parent can do that, right? If the parent agrees, I mean, or just done but it should be done in the correct way, right? Because it is a small world, and some of these people can have influence later. We always say the musical world is very small, and the colleagues that you're at school with now might be the music director or the promoter or the conductor who you want to be hired with, you know, or the fixer for the Broadway shows, you know. So how would you encourage a student to go about changing a teacher? Any of you have advice on that?
I mean, that is a difficult situation. I think the important thing with making the decision, first of all, and then in how how it plays out, is that we're each such individuals. And to your point earlier, I think sometimes, especially in smaller communities, there's like one main teacher who's like the teacher, and sometimes it doesn't work out for you. Like whether the studio is full, or you know they don't want to teach you, or you try lessons with that person and it just isn't quite the right fit. You don't feel like you're growing, or maybe you don't feel supported in the way that you need, to kind of know that your experience is valid and that there are so many different paths to lead to success. And there's so many different versions of success. There's really not one way to like find a career in music. And kind of acknowledging that and trusting your own instincts is really, I think, that one of the hardest things to do as a musician, because you're so vulnerable in lessons. It's like you take everything the teacher says, or if you're a student, kind of like I took everything the teacher said with like, you know, such weight and such importance. And I was really lucky that I worked with wonderful people. But I think if you're not working with somebody that you connect with or that feels like a safe person, to acknowledge that like it's okay if you are the one person that you know that didn't have a great experience, and you have to kind of be okay with acknowledging that and moving forward. And the way you move forward, I mean, can kind of be like, people don't need to know every detail of your inner workings. You can
Very good.
things
no,
you know,
very
like,
important.
and your friends and family is
yeah.
one thing, but in a professional setting, like, you don't owe deep explanations.
Right,
And
exactly.
most people won't think twice. Most people are busy with their own life, and
That's right.
you know, they'll think about it once and then they'll move on. They have another student coming in 25 minutes. So
And if they don't, then just hold your breath. And
just be the one that does, because it's
Yeah.
not worth it's just not worth like spending too much time with something that's not working. And it's also not worth like holding a grudge or like, you know, continuing to feel bad about something that you had to move on from. Yeah.
If I I may even add something
Yes.
to what Emily just said. As she mentioned, there might be different communities where there's just one teacher. And I feel that sometimes we as flutists have, as you said, we are just so into playing the flute. We are just really trusting that the teacher knows everything, and they will definitely find a way to help us. But I think sometimes we as flutists, we just have to become a bit more objective. I think as flute players, we are not objective. We are always looking for our
Exactly.
flaws. We never
Yeah.
see that we are actually good players, right? That we can
Yeah.
actually go and get a job in this playing the flute. So first of all, I would say just make sure to be objective about your situation and don't look at your colleagues. If your colleagues are thriving in this environment, maybe it's working for them, but maybe it's not working for you. And then another thing, if the teacher is helping other students, maybe it means that I'm doing something wrong, right? But I think the truth is that every flutist plays differently, and every teacher has different style of teaching or playing, and it just has to be a perfect match.
Wonderful. Thank you. Absolutely fantastic advice. God, so much was going through my head there, but we can't go. We could go on for another hour because you just you give such insight, and I think really what I take from this today is how fulfilled each one of you ladies at your young age is with your journeys that you've done, and as you mentioned, Emily, that there. You know, we have this world of music that we've been born into, really, and the passion has been ignited, and it's not just this one single focus. There is so much out there, and as each of you we didn't even get into really how busy their careers are with playing in Broadway shows and creating chamber music, and also playing in your own flute ensembles here, and also solo work and piccolo and flute and everything else that you're doing, you know, but that you can to be out of the box, really, that's it, you know, sitting in a practice room like this. But I think at least the conservatories and the schools, they offer more about that today also. And tell me, so here we're in this modern world with all this, we have to have a CV, we have to have all this, we have to have presenting. Can you just give, because I want to get to talking about this beautiful place where we are. I'm looking at those great flute cases. I got more flute cases at home. And so, so here I know sometimes we get students just very quickly that someone mentioned about having, maybe you're not the one, you have a thinner resume. But when we're looking, now we're going through for our summer festival program, all of the bios are all coming in from all the performers, and some of them are this big. And what we say to each of them, and actually we have to give my assistant's going to start giving a little bit of a course on this, is that, you know, they're not interested in every single thing that you did, because the person looking at this they have no time. They're only going to read the beginning, and so putting this much on your page is not always, you know, going to say everything. You know, they just want it's funny when they want us to do a short bio for my husband in 200 words. No. But so if someone's applying for a job here, okay, or for your master classes, let's talk. So here at the Flute Center, they, as you know, probably, please go to the website. We're going to give you all that information. They have monthly master classes. You've got 2 coming up here, plus you've got the Galways who just popped in town. You've got a lot going on, and so you have a lot of people apply for these master classes, right? So you've got that, but you've also got students who maybe come from Poland that apply here for a job. So what are you looking for?
Good question.
Yeah, it is
Or
a great question.
what I don't know in our case, but you know, what attracts you to say, I think it just gives you that feeling, that feeling. What do you, because presenting yourself, so here you're a flutist that you're practicing and you might be thinking, oh, I've really got to pay this rent, I really want to stay in New York City. Well, they play the flute at the New York Flute Center, maybe I'll go there, but it's not really what I want to do because I really want to play at Carnegie Hall next month. You know, so, but still you might be a little on edge coming in for the interview, because here, it is very prestigious to work here, I have to tell you. So when somebody comes in, I mean, it's probably the presentation, right?
Yeah, how you
The
present
package?
yourself, the whole package. And
So can you give them some advice on that, how to present themselves? And
yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to also just be yourself in a way. I want to get to know who you are and not just what's on the paper. And not that I don't care that you played 30 concerts in the last 2 months. That is great as well. But I want to get a snippet of who you are as a person and how you work generally.
Yeah, and actually right now we're actively looking to hire another team member for Flute Center. So I had the pleasure to sit in some of the interviews so far, and for me, the most important thing is to make sure that the person that's going to join our team can connect with us and will be able to work with us on our common goals. I think one of the biggest things about Flute Center is that we have a team mentality, and we always look for what can we do to improve, what can we do to change things together. We're not really looking for people who are very individualistic. Of course, we are happy if they bring a lot of experience that shows us different perspective, different light on things, but yet we're still looking for people who are really, they have this team mentality and help us achieve goals together.
Wonderful, thank you. Emily?
Yeah, well, I mean, that really sums it up, I think. But I would just say, to your point, one of our kind of core values is that we are progress obsessed. And I just think the people that have come and have really stuck around, the common link is that we all just like continuously look at what we're doing and how we're interacting with each other and with the outside world and think, I wonder if that could be like 2% better or 5% better. And it is obsessive, and it seems like really crazy, and if you think it's crazy, it's probably not going to be quite the right place for you to work. But we all kind of acknowledge that we're a work in progress, and as a store, we're a work in progress, and as team, as leaders, as team members, as individuals, we all are. And I think that's actually something that's really special about flute players as a whole, and it's kind of the way to spin our constant nitpicking of ourselves, is that we all are, like, many flute players tend to be this kind of progress obsessed, and have the humility to like see when our own systems or ways are not perfect, because of course they're not. And how boring would it be to work here for 7 years if nothing had changed? But so much has changed, so it's not boring at all. That's one thing it never is. Yeah,
it's definitely interesting. That's for sure. I think also what's so important is learning music. And this development, this growth throughout, and the characteristics that we develop within ourselves are exactly what you said. When you mentioned you're just seeking a little bit further, how can we make this better? We learn, this is from us being musicians.
Right.
Every day we look at that music, we play that phrase, and we say, how can I do this better? And that's also a way of practicing and not beating yourself up and saying, oh my God, it sounds terrible, my low notes are not working. It's like, how can I do this better? Right. What can I do? And that gives a lightness of spirit also. And I think that if a younger player can bring that lightness of spirit in, and that would be very beneficial to them. I want to talk about the Flute Center now, but just one thing. What do you ladies do for fun?
Ooh.
Let's hear about that, because this is also important too. We do have to take a break sometimes.
I love to cook, and I also love yoga, though I haven't really been going lately. But I really like cooking, and spending time with my family. Definitely occupies most of my personal time, which is really special and has been really great.
I love nature, so anytime I can get away, go for some hikes, just walking, just being in nature and just kind of regrounding myself.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You can do that in the city too.
Yeah.
I was saying to my husband yesterday, we should go to a park tomorrow. Let's go to a park and something, and just you're right out of the city too, and then you're there. And yourself, Agata?
I have my private hobby / tourist project, let's say. I have a YouTube channel about New York City in Polish language, and I also have an Instagram account where I connect with Polish people who are traveling to New York City. I share tips, and we create community. So this is actually my fun project that I cultivate after hours.
Isn't it great? It's all a giving back, isn't it? It's all a giving back for all that we've been given, which is great. If you want more information on how these ladies particularly did move from country to country, because we really do talk about the Flute Center now, I'm sure you can contact them here because it is very interesting. And there's a lot more, I think, that, I'm looking at a lot of computers here besides you're seeing the flutes. The technical skills, that's a whole nother session, and maybe we can do a second session and just talk about really the realistic things that someone needs today, in their career. I mean, at the time when I was young, you just kind of did a bio, you walked around, you got a group, and well, it's still the same concept, and you get out there and be your own manager, and it's because that's where it's at today. It's always been that way anyway. My husband will tell the story that, yes, he has had a huge career, but it started just like Elton John's did, where you just played for free and never made any money. And he'll talk about a group that he was in the Royal Philharmonic. They used to go up and down in England, just staying in these horrible hotels and not making any money for concerts, but you build a name. And when he did leave the Berlin Philharmonic, he had his public. So cultivating your art, cultivating your public, even if you don't have that self-confidence out there, but you have this gift of music. Use it, enjoy it, and as you three ladies have shared with us today, and I knew it would be special this morning. We just have to thank them for waking up. We have no Q&A session right now, but we will when we post it. Maybe we can work that out. This is a joint collaboration between the Flute Center New York, Galway, Flute Academy, and I just want to also mention we have our Flute Festival coming up. So when we talk about openness and wanting to hear a little bit outside of the box, what they offer, the Flute Center New York offers here with their master classes and also their talks. You have Katerina Martini coming in on April 4th, a student of ours. Who's talking
wonderful
about the body awareness and everything. Very important. She's a beautiful woman, wonderful flutist, student of Sir James's or of ours, and also very innovative. Also is writing some books and podcasts, and that's the word, innovation. My three innovative ladies. And so, be open, be aware, be positive is the whole thing. Flute Center, New York. I remember when you started way back. You girls weren't around.
Yeah.
Way back. This is way back when we used to go visit Phil. My husband used to go, and it was a small room. And Phil will laugh when he hears this. And my husband said, "Phil, you got to get rid of that old couch in here and put in a new couch." And one time we came back from tour, and my husband came home to me and said, "Guess what? Phil got a new couch." And I think that was the beginning of the change. We know you ladies have really, and Phil will say this, have really been a big backbone here and your team. And so tell us about all these boxes behind you that we all would love to try, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
What have we got here? What kind of instruments? You've got tons of instruments.
Yeah, most of them.
How do you keep? Who's in charge of inventory?
Yeah.
Well, it's not the easiest job. It's definitely challenging. I mean, what we see here, I would say it's probably like 50-60% of our inventory, because we do offer free in-home trials, which means that our flutes, even though are still part of our inventory, are right now out with clients who are trying them out and looking for new flutes. For example, you can receive a shipment of 4 flutes, test them out, choose the one that really sticks with you, and return everything else. So that's why we also have such beautiful shipping department right now, where we process everything that's coming and going.
Yeah, I saw all the bubble paper there.
Yeah.
It's really something. It's
Yeah.
and to keep track of the instruments, because it gets very busy in here too. You're in the middle of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
This is tricky.
Well, we have systems that we use, softwares.
But even people coming in trying which instruments are out on the table, and your eyes are everywhere, I would assume. And if it gets busy, I guess it's all hands on deck.
Always.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing about the people that have worked here and stuck around is the willingness to do what it takes, kind of, no matter what.
No task too small.
Right, no task too small,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And Lauren, your job is again. Sorry.
I'm the director of services right
So what would that mean, and how did you build into that? Well, we can't talk about the whole career because we're running out of time, but Director of Services.
Yeah, so right now I have the honor of also being the interim director of sales while lovely Katie Masad is out on maternity leave.
Oh, is that where Katie
Yeah,
is?
so
I was
we were
wondering
missing
where
her
Katie
today.
was with our,
Hi, Katie.
everyone knows Katie.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in a dual role right now. So I have the
Along with everything else.
Yes,
okay.
yes. Very busy. But with the Director of Services, I am building up the repair team. So we've been lucky enough to onboard some new repair technicians.
Which we see all
yes,
over here.
we've grown
yeah.
our department a lot. And we're hoping to open a repair school in the next year or two. Yes, so there's a big need for that right now, just in the industry in general.
Yes.
So we want to make that happen.
I think if you could give some advice to the students, it would be don't take your flutes apart at home.
Yeah.
Right?
YouTube will only get you so far.
Yeah. No, a lot of people fiddle. I think we all fiddled with our flutes
Yeah.
when we were young.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, we can. And taking corks out of the flute,
Yeah.
that's a big dangerous
But
one.
also
right?
the importance of maintaining your instrument. I think
Very much.
we can go a long time, and then we start to blame ourselves, and it probably is the flute. You know,
Yeah.
bring it in for your yearly maintenance and
Sure.
keep
sure.
it under control.
I mean, just the we have some gold flutes, and the foot joint will just come off the flute. And I remember I was standing in a concert next to my husband, the flute chick, and he looked over and he went like this. You know, it was just well, because the especially with the gold, you know, it's very
Yeah.
fine. So all this is very important too. And of course, young students, you never put the flute on the chair. I'm sure you've had a few of
Had
those
people that have sat on it.
sat on flutes and other people. My husband had a conductor that knocked his platinum flute off the music stand. I said, what was it doing on the music stand? And yes, so information here, and do ask your questions when you come in here too, because they will give you tips. We always lie our flutes on a cloth. You know, this is your flute. You know, this is an extension of you. You want to take care of it. Emily, I know you do everything. And you're the person who, at the last minute, always helps out the Galways.
Yes.
But everyone else.
Yeah, I get to run all of our marketing efforts, which is really fun. We, of course, have events and do social media, and you can find us on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all the places. We also have a really great website which takes an enormous amount of effort, certainly not at all just me. But that is one of our real pride and joys, and I think one of our kind of the differences about us, you can actually filter our inventory by specific specifications that you want. So if you only want to see flutes that have offset G and C sharp trill and a gold lip plate, you can do that. It's kind of like Zappos for flute was the vision. So we maintain that, which is a huge undertaking. And yeah, the marketing department really, to me, feels like the speakerphone of the Flute Center. So getting to really work with all of the teams to make sure the message that we're shouting is accurate and is our best foot forward, and that we're really living up to the promises that we make to the flute community. So.
Which you do. I know I have to compliment you on your photos of the flutes, and I have a good time. I scan a lot through there.
It's not me. I don't do any of that, but the team is amazing.
No, it is an incredible website, and this trial that you also have is really amazing that you do with. So if you are in the middle of nowhere, it's really important. So and your website is
flutecenter.com.
flutecenter.com, or just give a call, and you could speak to one of these resident flutists that can help you. And we can't get into the whole, because our time has run out today, but of upgrading your flute and everything. They can advise you on this also. And it's really good to listen to somebody who is objective, right? That can hear, because many times you start trying and also stay within your affordable range, because there'll always be a tomorrow. And the other thing is, listen to their advice, because just buying an expensive headpiece on a flute that won't hold it, isn't really the wisest choice. As a musician, we have long, expensive careers ahead of us. And so, and also I just want to talk about the collaboration with the Galway Flute Academy and the Flute Center in New York, which we're going to be talking about this month because we're highlighting the Flute Center in New York. Emily, could you explain this with Code Galway? It sounds like very cool if you get the Code Galway.
Yes, it is. It is very cool. So the Galway code will get you a lot of great perks. You get a longer trial. You get free shipping. You get an extended service contract on any new or certified pre-owned instrument that you purchase. And those just really make the buying experience easier and more seamless. So we're thrilled to get to work with you all on that. You also get a discount on sheet music.
Very important.
I mean, it is. We all buy so much sheet music. It's crazy. So yeah, use the code Galway at checkout. If you call us and you're working with a resident flutist, you can mention it on the phone. It will get you the same perks. Yeah, we're thrilled to be working together. Yeah, so fun.
Well, I'm just so thrilled to be with you three ladies today, and we're going to have a nice breakfast after. Sorry, we didn't bring our bagels. I actually told the girls they didn't want to eat anything. We're all on diets before Easter because the Easter bunnies are coming, or Passover bunnies, whatever we're going to celebrate, or if we're not going to celebrate. But we will be back with you throughout the month that we're here in New York, and I know my husband wants to come by also and try some flutes, and we're not playing flutes today, but we will another time. So please keep in touch with the Flute Center in New York. We're here today, myself representing my husband, Sir James, and the Galway Flute Academy, and what we do because we believe in this company. And we want you to have the best of the best in every level, whether it's your lessons, online lessons, which we do, and our different things that we offer, and our ladies hour to give you this encouragement and also to help you at different levels in your career, how to move forward. We haven't even talked about marketing and all these things that you should take maybe in school while you're there, and but having a good instrument and keeping it within your budget. I wanted that silver flute. I never thought of a gold flute. You don't need a gold flute today, believe me. They're nice, but stay within your budget and just work it out, because you do have a long, wonderful career ahead of you. And the stress financially you don't need, right, ladies? You don't need that because you've got a lot of other things. We want to thank again Phil Unger and Julian Rose for allowing us to be here, and Pedro Ferreira for looking after us, our cameraman and video technician, and Agata, Lauren, and Emily. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much.
Really, you're just wonderful. Come to the Flute Center in New York and visit the Galway Flute Academy at www.galwayfluteacademy.com, and also come to our festival early bird offer. It will be up soon, but our festival is June 28th to July 2nd. We've got 10 great artists, and we'll be online for all of you. Bring your new flutes with you. Code Galway. And thank you, Flute Center of New York.
Thank you.
See you again. Bye.